What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and the most toxic black man on the internet, and I am black up in your face again with some more pro-black commentary. So I did a video talking about that buffoon Chad or Chud the Builder, aka Dalton the Dingleberry, aka Cheek Busted Chud, right? And I talked about how all of his terrorizing and harassment of black people basically got his dumb ass locked up. And at this point, I believe his bail for the shooting has been revoked, and he's probably on his way to having his booty traded and sold for ramen noodles and cupcakes. So, there's not too much more I have to say about him in particular. But what I did want to talk about are the group of professional white ass kissers who have come out to defend Chud the Builder. So anytime you have an overt white supremacist and bigot who, makes a spectacle of himself, right? Obviously you're going to get your average mayonnaise mutant and white product of incest. They're going to come out to defend said bigot, right? Obviously he's going to be like their champion. But you'll also get some people who are non-white to come out there and, like I said, they're professional white ass kissers. So of course, they're going to run to the defense of their master. So when Chud the Builder was out there doing his thing, you had a bunch of these clowns come out there to defend him. The first of them is the person that I like to call the human turd emoji, and that is Jason Whitlock. He came out there and basically made it seem as if there was something wrong with black people if they got offended by this white man calling them the N-word and calling them monkeys. So if you are a black person who is offended by offensive terms, these terms are meant to be offensive. They're meant to harass and to terrorize you, right? Like I told you before in my last video about this subject, the N-word came with violence. It was not just something that was just out there as just a word. The N-word is synonymous with violence when it comes to how white males use it on black people, all right? And like I said, it usually came with a violent act, and it comes with a violent mentality. So it's not just words, it's not just freedom of speech, quote unquote. But Jason Whitlock, of course, he has to make sure he comes out to make the white man seem like he is something greater, or as if white people don't take offense to words, or as if white people don't get emotional about things. I mean, we all saw January 6th, right? So he made it seem as if there's something wrong with black people if we get offended by a white man walking around calling us the N-word and calling us chimps and monkeys, right? So you got the human turd emoji, Jason Whitlock, doing that. And not to be outdone, you had a bunch of those young manosphere, red pill, white ass kissers, people like Sneeko and Myron Gaines. They also did basically the same thing, where they made it seem as if there's something wrong with black people for reacting to any type of harassment or terrorism. And they tried to make it seem as if, well, it's just words or whatever, right? Now, these clowns, they have a lot of young white males as their audience. So a lot of that nonsense that they're saying is mostly a grift, right? Because that's the only way they can keep making money, is to kiss the ass of white males and make white males seem as if they're greater. And we know that people like Sneeko and Myron Gaines, that they love white males. There's pictures of Myron Gaines in bed with white males. There's plenty of video out there of Sneeko tap dancing and buck dancing for white males, right? And acting as if they are the smartest things on earth. So, of course, these two in particular, they're going to do whatever they can to kiss that white ass and make it seem as if black people have a negative reaction to being disrespected, then that's an indictment of black people, right? That somehow it's black people's problem for minding their own business and having some random white person terrorize them. Somehow that's still black people's fault, right? And Myron, he loves to push that whole narrative, always talking about black people are out here getting violent and committing crime. Now it's funny that he does that because Myron Gaines literally comes from a family of people who have committed acts of violence within their own country. Myron Gaines is from the Sudan, and his own family is involved with the terroristic and violent regime over in the Sudan, to the point where when they had that revolution over there, Myron Gaines admitted that he had to pay money to help get his uncle out of the country because there are people out there coming for his head, right? And that's why I say that Myron Gaines, the fact that he was able to do that, and the fact that his family is well known, and the fact that he was able to come here to the United States and work for the United States government, that makes me think that Myron Gaines himself is an actual agent of the United States, and what he does online is work for the government, putting out bigotry and disseminating racism against other black people. That's why I truly believe that he is a government asset, okay, based on his history. And he's admitted to as much, the fact that, he was groomed by, Homeland Security and whatnot, and used to work for them. And the fact that, like I said, he was able to put money into getting his uncle, who was part of a violent regime over in the Sudan, out of there before they could chop his damn head off, right? So that's the type of nonsense that comes from these agents out here. Now, not to be outdone, then you got the other side of the argument from cockeyed clowns like Charleston White. No soon as cheek-busted Chud got out there and was doing his thing and harassing black people, of course, you're going to have a buck-dancing buffoon like Charleston White come out there to defend this white man. That's basically what Charleston White does on social media. If you check any of his rhetoric, it always leads to him defending white males, right? I did a whole video with him and Anton Daniels literally putting on their superhero outfits to come to the rescue of the white man in this country. So what Charleston White decided to do, he kind of took a different slant from the Jason Whitlocks and the Myron Gaines. So instead of black people being emotional for responding to Chud the Builder, Charleston White said that black people, or black males especially, are punks because they don't attack Chud the Builder. Now, let's think about this. The whole premise of Chud the Builder and a lot of his bigot minions out here is that black people are violent, black people are emotional, but for the most part, most people don't even respond to him with his nonsense. The fact that he was going around and there wasn't any black people just attacking him or putting his lights out automatically disproves their whole argument about black people being violent, right? But Charleston White makes it seem as if now black people, especially black males, are cowards because they don't do anything to Chud the Builder. And I disagree with that as well, all right? Now, I've always talked about this in one of the very first videos I released on this channel. I talked about, I don't like the whole notion of saying, oh, why don't the thugs take care of the racists out here? Like, why don't thug black people go out there and kill George Zimmerman? Or why don't the thugs out there go kill some of these racist cops? And I don't like that rhetoric because if you think about it logically, why would a thug or a Pookie or a Ray Ray, they don't have that mentality. Why would they take on that type of revolutionary mindset to want to fight against white supremacy? Pookie and Ray Ray are barely aware of white supremacy, all right? They're stuck in the hood mindset just like a lot of you clowns are, where they only focus or hyper-focus on the people around them, right? So they don't understand that they're locked in a system that has devolved them to that point where they only want to strike out at their own people. So logically speaking, you trying to, shame Pookies and Ray Rays into doing the fighting for you, that only makes you look ignorant, okay? So I used to think that way, but I don't think like that anymore. Because like I said, once I started thinking about it logically and actually viewing the thoughts of some of these types of people, like these gang members and these Pookies and Ray Rays, that type of stuff doesn't even cross their mind, right? That's why they overreact to nonsense like someone stepping on their sneaker or someone looking at them too long. They're not thinking about white supremacy or fighting white supremacy. That they don't even know what that is most of the time. Okay? So, depending on street or hood dudes to do your dirty work is nonsense. If you have a problem with these white bigots out here or these white supremacists, then you need to do something. But just check out the trickery that goes on here from all of these clowns and these white butt kissers. Think about this. Think about the fact that on one side you got one group of them saying that black people are overly emotional for even reacting to these white bigots. And then you got another side attacking you for not taking the head off of one of these white bigots. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. That's why I said these people are all professional white ass kissers, because at the end of the day, at the end of all their rhetoric, all it does is end up with them kissing white ass and blaming black people for basically being attacked, right? Black people can just be sitting around, walking around, minding our business, but if we do something, we're bad. If we don't do something, we're bad. Either way, somehow we're both wrong. So it's ridiculous, right? And that's why I don't really pay these types of people much attention, other than to show you that a lot of these people are full of hypocrisy and full of nonsense. So you folks let me know how you feel about it in the comments section. I would love to hear your opinions on these professional white ass kissers. Anyway, Mad Black, and I will be back on my foot on the devil's back.